I'm going to start these pretty organically, just such.
Yeah.
So are you ready to go?
Yes, 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 yes.
All right. I'm talking with today Miss Monique Betty of Tuesdays with Coach Mo. You are an executive coach. You've done a lot of really great things. We met a few weeks ago digitally, and it's been a really, really, really cool relationship so far. Welcome to the podcast today.
So glad to be here. And I have to admit, Dominique, it was because of our name connection. You know, Dominique had to interview Monique.
Here's the deal. I love the fact that, and this is a disclaimer for everybody that's listening to this right now. I get my name mispronounced so many times. People call me Dominic all the time. And it's, of course, I think a Monique can understand because it's like the last part of our names are identical. So you, of course, understand the correct pronunciation, which I appreciate.
Yes. Should I just say Dominic just so you feel at home? Now, and you know how that is. Now that someone has said something, they planted the seed. So you know that's coming.
Oh my gosh. Well, how are you doing in this? We're filming this and we're in the last month of 2020, and there's been a global pandemic the whole year just about. And there's been a lot of things to, I think, maybe bemoan, but also a lot of things to be grateful. How are you holding up?
Yeah, doing good. Definitely interesting to say the least. I still find it hard to imagine that we're in this place as a country, as a global society. So I've got to get over that because we're here. And I think the experience collectively speaks volumes to how hard change is for people. You know, this notion of having to change habits and things that we've been accustomed to doing is very difficult for many people.
Unpack that. Yeah, that's an interesting takeaway, I think, insight from this is that, it's the whole notion around who moved my cheese, right? We're creatures of habit, and, the changes in business, the changes in personal, family, there's people that would be working that are staying home and, doing some version of hybrid homeschooling. I mean, that's very interesting. Have you seen that a whole lot in your business with clients having to adjust to change?
Well, and primarily I work with a lot of high achieving young professionals who are primarily single. And a lot of the, oh my gosh, I'm by myself. I can't do any more Zooms. I'm exhausted. I need connectivity. And mental health has actually come up a great deal this year with a number of clients who have, in addition to working with me as their coach, supporting them on where they're going in their leadership trajectory forward, are seeking the help of therapists. And mental health, I think this is causing many individuals to feel some sort of way about their identity, who they are, and the thoughts that are coming up. And it has put a significant amount of pressure on, in particular, the working parents with young children, and in particular, those families with children with disabilities.
No, and I guess that it makes it difficult, I would say, just because this is the time that we normally get together and kind of congregate, right? Yeah. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and now everything's just a little bit more muted. So that's why I'm interested to talk to you today about really kind of creating a personal development, plan and how to achieve your goals, and kind of like, maybe taking a step back. I don't know how often people do. Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work, right? Where you kind of zoom out a little bit and you say, okay, from a 30,000 foot view, what am I trying to accomplish? Get out of the weeds and get out of the hamster wheels so that you can really think about what the next moves are. And I think you are an excellent person to talk to this subject on. So I'm really eager to get some of your thoughts. So how do people, Monique, get focused on then what is like going to move the needle for them? So let's give them some tangible tools for 2021 and beyond. Like, how do they actually start to saying, these are the top priorities to me because of X, Y, and Z?
And so that's just like kind of a loaded question. Priorities to you professionally, in your personal life, in your family? Because here's the thing, if I'm coaching the whole person, there are considerations of all relationships with their family, personal, their financial considerations, spirituality, their relationship, of course, with children, with their boss, with their colleagues, their own health and fitness regime. There are so many dimensions because we are not just, singular lensed individuals. So
Yeah. Fair
when it
enough.
comes to, so when it comes to, in particular, talking about planning,
Well, let's
and
use this.
looking
Can we
ahead.
use this example? Let me give you an example.
Okay.
So, in my line of work, I come across a lot of career changers, and I would say the typical definition of a career changer is someone that's been doing, one particular job or like right out of school or something like that for like 5 or 10 years. They develop some expertise, reputational credibility, financial independence, even, and then they're like, but this is just not moving the needle for me. This is not lighting my hot spot anymore. What I need to do is I need to become a financial professional because, then they have a story attached to why they want to do it. And a lot of times there's this, juxtaposition of, do I keep my steady life going and not rock the boat? I got bills to pay, or do I follow my dream and aspiration, even though I know there's going to be some hard times ahead? Like, what would be maybe some things to think about that you would maybe pose as questions to that particular person to make sure they're on the right path?
Yeah. First, it would be, well, what's moving the needle mean for you? What is it that moving the needle means? What is it you're ultimately going to? So even if I start with a simple question of, well, what is it that you want?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I don't really think it stops at just a job title because you're going to be in that job for the next 5-10 years. And let's just say, so this has been your experience in 5 to 10 years and you were real rapt at the outset. Now you've traveled that journey. Let's go forward and you place your stakes in another thing in the next 5 and 10 years. What if you find yourself at the same place?
Yeah.
So what is it you really want? And then it's questions of the path to getting there and the motivation for getting there. And so when working with a client, it's interesting because we really are disciplined in our listening skills, what's being said, what's not being said, and kind of challenging the thinking and the what if. Because if I tell you this, one thing I have known to be true in my 12 some years as an executive coach, if the motivation is not there, it doesn't matter what it is you're telling me you're trying to accomplish.
So talk about motivation, because I'm of the persuasion that motivation is largely
Mm-hmm.
internal.
Yep.
Others would disagree with me, even the one that I sleep with every night.
Call your bride.
I just tend to think that, I either in my mind tell myself this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want. Maybe I have outside and external forces that maybe reinforce or inspire me, maybe even affirm me, but my internal motivation is the Kickstarter and the catalyst to anything I'm going to do. That's at least how I'm wired.
Yeah. So that's where I'll support the client in asking them to then, okay, let's build that out. When you accomplish that, what will be going on within you? What things will you be hearing? What things will you be seeing around you? How will you be feeling that's different than today? So in other words, what's that evidence for yourself that this is truly what you want? And so
is this like a visualization exercise almost? Like, what does life look like in that state or status?
That's an option.
Okay.
That's actually one of the services, and that's a special dimension of the training program that we provide for our coaches, is to help clients create an affirmation statement. And some people are like, affirmation statement, and it's like, you know what? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry out here, and people are acquiring affirmations that someone else has created. Oh, I love the way they speak or how they framed it, so I'm going to listen to that person. It's like we work with individuals to create your own unique affirmation that's designed by you.
Because you own it, right? You own it if it's yours.
You own it. And the reason it's so powerful is because I think it was Canfield, that Chicken Soup for the Soul, who provided some research years ago saying something about the amount of negativity, the amount of negative information that we all take in
Yeah.
on a regular basis by the time we're 11 years old. It was astonishing. And this is research that goes back a while. So I can't even imagine what that number is now.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of negativity that people take in on a consistent, regular basis, it's daunting. So the purpose of the affirmation is to create a tool designed by you, with you, for you, that is of your goals, all that you want in all dimensions of your life, that you then take in that information. You create the space to listen to your own affirmation. We, in fact, encourage our coaches to support their clients with everybody's busy. No one's going to make time for it. So you know what? Listen to it while you sleep on a self-recorded device. Put it under your pillow. I understand there are even pillows out here that have speakers in them, but listen to your own affirmation when you're going to sleep and let it tap into your unconscious. Okay.
So I'm hearing a lot of different things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it begins with essentially, let me paraphrase, like a why statement, almost
Okay.
like, what am I doing this for? What's the end goal? And then there's got to be some motivation, and maybe not singularly just motivation, like I believe in. Maybe there's, other things that come around to support, how I am motivated. I may be the most motivated in the world, and I'm just having a bad day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listening to that affirmation, or maybe seeing something on my mirror or on my wall that I've written
Mm-hmm.
out in advance will all help. It sounds like you're saying all these are ingredients to getting you to that space.
Yes, because we have to remind ourselves. We have to remind ourselves, Dominique, of what we want, because it's such a noisy world we live in and we forget,
Now,
right?
I totally agree with that.
How fair
There's
is
a
that?
lot of noise and not a lot of signal, right?
Yes. And so it's creating your own tool for yourself. So that's one tool. It may
Yeah.
work for some people may not so much. And here's the role of a coach: to support you on keeping you honest and accountable to that which you say you desire and you're working out a plan for. And I'm
Mm,
telling you, that motivation piece, and how I know how I actually kind of support my clients with accountability, is they're telling me they're going to do something. And then session 1, session 2, session 3, the 3 or 4 spot, they haven't done any of it.
mm.
Okay, so what is it for you now that you have said you were going to do this and you continue to come up short? What's underneath that for you?
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting track, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a parallel. Specifically at this time of the year, a lot of people are feeling like, I'm not going to go into 2021 the same way I left 2020, for a lot of
Right.
reasons.
Yeah.
Even before the global pandemic, people were still feeling this way. So I'm
Right.
kind of canceling out the whole fact that we had COVID-19.
Right.
People, for whatever reason, have this motivation to do better, because I think we're goal striving human beings. That's more
Mm-hmm.
the main reason for that. And so I'm noticing a parallel by what you're saying, that somebody hires somebody, pays them money to say, hold me accountable to these 3 or 4 things that I want to do. 3 or 4 sessions pass by, they still haven't done it. You're asking them the question, what's the deal? Somebody
Why
doesn't
are you
hire a
still
coach.
coming?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Why are
yeah.
you still showing up?
And then on the flip, or not on the flip, but very similarly, somebody doesn't hire a coach. They write all these things down and say, I'm going to do them, and then they lose motivation. What's behind this loss of motivation and
you
lack of moving forward? That's what I want to ask.
you just said it. It's they're telling themselves one thing and their behavior isn't supporting that. And so the
Mm,
motivation really isn't there. And so I invite clients to discover, are you saying things? People place a premium on extrinsic value. Well, I want to say these
mm.
things because I want to appear a certain way to my family and
Okay.
friends.
Mm,
They won't admit it though. Here's the thing about working with a credentialed coach who is trained to listen: is can't can't run, can't hide from your coach, right? Because that's where the real conversations of, so is there an opportunity to revisit what really do you want? What's
mm,
keeping you in this place of saying that you want it and there's no actions or behaviors that are supporting it? And so an individual has to come to his or her conclusions on that, because I can't say you don't really believe in that, you're really not motivated. That's my opinion.
yeah.
And so I have to keep that out of the conversation,
Yeah.
because for some people there are truly some competing priorities that, you know, a family member or themselves all of a sudden had a devastating health diagnosis. So, you know, life happens.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, yes, we do derail. So is the derailment due to conditions beyond your control, or are they due to conditions within you? And so where to start for 2021, something that I'm championing, is to invite individuals to take inventory of 2020. What did they set out to do? Okay. What were goals they had for themselves? Granted, life is going to happen, whether it's a pandemic. I was selling to the financial community in Chicago when it was Black Monday. Many moons ago.
Yeah.
You know, financial collapse.
There's always going to be something, right?
There is something. Okay. Life is going to show up. And there are factors that we cannot control. And I don't know how many times I say this, but all those in corporate America, you know what? A corporation is going to do what a corporation has to do. That may or may not include you. And we are all replaceable inside of corporations. And
what do you feel? Let me ask you this. What do you feel about this statement? Because I want to go back to something you just said earlier about this whole notion about, you know, people, I hate to use the term like make excuses, but that essentially that's what's happening. You know, life does happen. Sometimes life happens, but then a lot of times life doesn't happen. Like you're just not doing it, right? You're just not doing anything. What have been some trends that you've noticed when it comes to this lethargy that happens, this self-sabotage, or, you know, this kind of like self-limiting beliefs? How do people kind of break out of that? What do they have to do? I know you said taking an inventory of 2020, that's right. A great thing. But even with that, you got to be brutally honest with yourself, right? You can be like, I was going to lose 20 pounds, but I stopped going to the gym in January. Like nobody's going to say, well, the pandemic happened. That's the reason why I didn't go, you know, instead of just being like, I didn't feel like it. I could have worked out in my garage, but I didn't feel like it. Like, what are some of the techniques that you use to help people break out of not telling themselves the truth, basically?
So let's boil it down to 3 questions for your listeners to ask themselves about a goal they set for themselves in 2020, whether, you know, it was something written down or they told somebody or it was just in their head or what have you. What made that goal important for you? Okay. So let's hit rewind. Let's gain some insights here. What made that goal important? What was the process you put in place for achieving that goal? Because if you didn't have a process, you were in the wish category. You know,
well, and even just to say, just a parenthetical, even to tell, like you said earlier, you said, did you write it down? Did you tell somebody? That could be a process, right? Absolutely. And just telling somebody, right? Having an accountability. Yeah. Okay. So,
and that's the second thing. The third question is being honest. What were or what are the results of that goal, the process, what have you? Here's the thing, is when individuals are in pursuit of a particular goal that they think they want, they're motivated, they're going after it, all of a sudden it's, okay, now that I'm doing this, something's just not working. And you may not be able to put a finger on it. That's where working with a coach or some unbiased person can help you unpack some of that. Because until because here's the thing, some people, I want to go into sales. I want to, I have to admit, coming out of undergrad, I thought, because I traveled during an internship with a salesperson, and I was like, oh my gosh, we went to, it was a health supply company that's now, it was part of Baxter Healthcare at the time. And I traveled with a sales rep. We went to a hospital site, sat down with an administrator, brought this person some coffee, yucked it up, talked about families, talked about what was going on in sports. Literally, we got in the car and we went to the next person to do the same thing. And I was like, so let me, like, you do this all day. You go and just talk with people and have coffee and talk current events. Oh, and by the way,
I want that job.
Literally, I was a computer programmer at Ohio State. I went back and changed my degree. I changed my, and it was so funny because the counselor was like, you know, I never understood why you were in programming because.
But okay, so even with this though, Monique, even with this, like, but the insights that you were given, that you probably obviously have a different outlook on those now, but the fact is, you know, they were relationship building. They had probably high EQ. That was a very good day also, because a lot of no's come in the sales, you know, all this stuff you just don't know. And I think you made the point earlier about working with somebody that is unbiased and has some outside perspective to give you before you just jump into a decision, or to help you at least evaluate goals that you set for yourself.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. And rounding out that story there is, once I became a salesperson, I was like, okay, I didn't understand that how I felt when someone told me no. I didn't understand all the customer service and handholding, and I'm the point of, you hate your equipment, you're calling me. I didn't see all that, right?
Yeah.
And so once I had an opportunity to wear the experience, I was like, okay, I know there is not longevity here for me in this type of a role. And that was so incredibly valuable. And I don't know if amongst your listeners, if you have any young entrants to the workforce, I invite everyone, if you don't know what else to do, go carry a bag, go detail, go sell something, because those skills are transferable into whatever it is you will do. Handling someone saying no, I don't care where you are in the management leadership spectrum, you have to have that muscle to do that. So that being said, what people want, and as my clients are forming goals ahead, we engage in a discussion of the what if. What if, you get into that role and all of a sudden you have these unknowns that occur that are really counterproductive to you or don't feel right for you? Like, what will you do then? Okay, well, since you don't know, how will you go find that out? Maybe interviews with some people, go have some discussions with people, do some additional digging. Because when you do that, when you're committed to making that pursuit, and this is where that motivation comes in, you will stop at almost nothing. Let me go talk to somebody. And ask a different set of questions. We should get smarter as we get older. I know it's hard for people to understand that, but we really should get smarter as we get older, and not, do you like your job? What do you like about it? No. What keeps you awake at night in this role? What didn't you anticipate is a larger element of this job that you didn't expect? The what if. What if this happens? How will that go down? That sort of thing. So we have to ask different questions. And by having a support person who's unbiased and helping with navigating a process around achieving your goals for next year, that person, and I would vet them heavily to make sure that person's going to challenge you enough to invite in that.
I think that's the key. I think that is the key.
Yes.
I love the mosaic you're building here, right? So we take an inventory of what, in this particular case, 2020 unfolded for us, literally with about 2 weeks left. Then we kind of look at, what was I feeling when I made that particular goal, right? Like, if I didn't accomplish it, if I said I wanted to lose 20 pounds, what was I thinking? Like, what was that? Was it right after, gorging myself on food? Like, what was the mindset there? And then evaluating the process for how was I going to lose that weight if I never went to the gym, or if I never, worked out, or any of that kind of stuff. I love this mosaic. And then if we have this outside source that can really hold our feet to the fire with,
and pull apart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the key. No, I love that. I think that is a blueprint that we can definitely, I know myself, I can definitely use that going forward. You made up a point earlier that I just kind of want to interject with this whole evaluation. Sometimes it's hard to go back, 12 months, 11 months, whatever, and say, this is the way I was thinking at that particular time. Yeah. What are your thoughts on, and do you recommend for your clients to journal?
That's a technique. So because I stay out of, if I'm offering just one technique, that means I'm consulting. I'm telling them to do this. I refrain from doing that. So we engage in a conversation that goes along with building out what I like to call a buffet. Because when you go to a restaurant, we don't do that in pandemic now, but with a buffet, right? There's a range of choices to select, and you and your family member will each create a plate of food that's different from the buffet. So I like to create a buffet with my clients. So journaling is an option. Some people are really good with being responsive to their phones. And so a lot of people are doing a lot of stuff on their phones, and apps really work with them and, for them. there's so in addition to journaling, some people just want to sit back and kind of even watch videos or what have you to take in information.
But
Talk
the
about
importance
capturing,
of, yeah, the
capturing and
importance of
tracking.
capturing, the capturing of the idea, I think, is key because, and I often say, I kid my wife with this. I was like, you misremember a lot more than you think because you don't write stuff down. Like I write stuff. I'm a writer downer. That's
Right.
that's what I do.
See,
like,
right. And you're unique in that regard because not everyone does that. Some people say it.
yeah.
And then when people don't do it, because I have a number of clients that say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to journal that down. I'm going to capture it. And I will say, what's the best form of capturing it for you?
Yeah.
Because as soon as some
important.
people commit to picking up a writing utensil and paper or whatever, then they check out. So voice messages.
So there's all different ways. I think,
journaling, capturing, taking inventory.
David Allen, Getting Things Done, talks about, the first cog in the productivity system that he espouses is idea capture. You can never get to, I'm going to do this or whatever, if you don't capture the idea. So I've always experimented with different ways. I learn different ways. There's all different types of ways of learning. So every time it's not going to be convenient to pick up a writing utensil and write things down, of course. So Evernote and all these other tools that are out there to help you say, oh, this is what I'm trying to do, or this is the way I was thinking when this thought came to me, or this idea came to me. So I just, I'm agnostic on how you do it, but I think the practice as a whole for idea capture is something that's really helpful for what you're talking about right now.
Well, and depending how an individual is wired, what is their most dominant learning style? Like you just referenced, how you and writing it down. There are people who are dominant visual, like they really want to visualize it and see it. And there are those who are auditory. They want to listen to it. They want to talk about it. And then there are those who just go on their feelings. And it was interesting. I was talking with a friend who is really dominant. She oftentimes uses the phrase of, I feel, I feel, I feel. Well, she had her son who's kind of at a place of not really knowing how to launch himself coming out of high school. And in the conversation, I guess he took the Myers-Briggs, and his outcome was that he's dominant in the thinking. And so I asked her, I said, well, when you engage with him, how does he respond to you if you ask him, what does he think about the situation versus what does he feel about the situation? And she was like, huh? And I was like, well, his Myers-Briggs is suggesting that he is dominant in the thinking. So where you're dominant in feeling and we gloss over these things. So this is one of the tips I actually have for your audience in terms of the go forward and development in 2021 is I call it the small goals. They're almost invisible because we just don't give them enough credence, and they're powerful. Things like listening, things like how are we creating time for ourselves to simply think? We are such a responding society now, quick, fast, in a hurry, respond. It's not necessarily just the hard skills, but it's the soft skills.
Yeah.
When we talk about Gallup and our strengths, here's another comparison. So those who have talents that are more aligned with strategic thinking, you're dominant in those talents. Like you've been given a situation to solve. Your go-to is thinking about what's underneath, what's brought us to this point, and considering alternative paths forward. If you're on the opposite end of the spectrum and you have talents that are dominant in, let's say, the executing space, you're just like, let's go do some stuff and figure it out along the way. That's me. And for those of us who love to just go,
ready, fire, aim is what I call it.
Right, yeah. So there's a price for that. The price is the cost of wasted time and energy because you're so excited to be doing something and it fills you up and you feel good because you're doing something. Oops, didn't see that. If we had slowed it down, engaged with our strategic thinking brethren, and come up with a plan, there's a possibility we may have saved a little time and money.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by that self-awareness. And really, how do you process what are your natural talents? And how do you learn best? Thinking, feeling, hearing something. When individuals gain clarity of what that is for themselves, then guess what? We can now create a process for achieving our goals in a way that's natural to us, that works for us, versus reading it in a book, what works for that person. This is why weight loss, smoking cessation, we would think, don't people know enough to know? Just lose the weight, just exercise. Just, if it was that easy, okay, we wouldn't be in this space. It's hard because I think people have tried to force fit themselves into someone else's solution. This is why I coach, because I work with individuals to create processes and solutions that work for them.
Yeah. No, that's important. That's huge, because you get, at the end of the day, you know, I talk to my financial services client and I say, hey, we're going to build a relationship. We're going to build some trust here, because I can give you all the good advice in the world, but if you don't execute on this plan that I've given you, because you don't trust me, because we don't know each other, because we haven't spent time, then it's going to be all for naught. So I totally agree with you. I think the level of customization that we need in this society, based on the speed of information and the speed of data, is huge. If you could give us a word, if you could sum up I would say a parting word, or maybe a mantra for 2021, maybe it's something you've been working on personally, what would that be?
Wow. Well, it's interesting because my go-to mantra that has been with me forever is, if you don't have confidence, you will always find a way to fail. If you don't have confidence, somehow, some way, whether internal, external, it's just not going to work out. And the reason I came into coaching and I created my initial business name was Career Sync, SYNC, short for synchronicity, is because I really felt that there were so many people I was working shoulder to shoulder with in corporate America that they were working for the job title and the salary and all the stuff that you could acquire with that. And I looked to my left and looked to my right, and I would never dare to benchmark myself against other people, because I often found those people unhappy. Like their life was to drink, eat, sleep, their job. And I'm thinking, there's got to be more to life than defining yourself. So instead, create for yourself a career that's in sync with who you are. And this is counterintuitive to what, you know, a point you made at the very beginning of our time together, and it's kind of the American way that you go get a degree, you go get a job, you fit yourself into a box and off you go. And it doesn't work that way. It does not.
There's a lot of unhappy people that have done that. So say that again.
Right.
If you're not confident, then
if you don't have the confidence, you'll always find a way not to win. If you don't have confidence, because I truly believe, and so it's funny, but that's my lens on the world. I'm because I'm all about positivity as my number one talent strength, and we can have fun and laughter. I'll go up on stage, I jump in, games. You put me on a game show. I think my family's like sick of me. I'm like, I really want to be on Ellen, Ellen's Game of Games, because I'd be one of those people who would just be all in, Yeah. But I also recognize that choices I make are informed by, can I have fun doing this? I mean, that's how I think, right? Yeah. And so it comes at the expense. Some people would say, like my husband, who's really counter to me, he's in the financial space, and he's definitely more linear, more quantitative. And I'll just go up and talk to anybody and do anything. And he's like, oh, that would be so embarrassing. Embarrassing is not part of my, the way
it doesn't register as an embarrassment to you. It's just like, we're having a conversation. What are you talking about?
Look, you're looking at someone here, and I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but during the internship I had while in graduate school, getting my MBA at Michigan, I actually went to live in Warsaw, Poland. So I was like the 1/18th of 1% of a person of color in Poland. So needless to say, people were looking at me constantly like where you don't belong here, like where did you come from, type of thing. But it didn't bother me. I was just there taking it all in with the work that I was doing at a 100-plus-year-old chocolate factory, which is a conversation for another podcast episode.
Yeah. I hear you. You're full of stories. This is great. But no, I think there's been a lot to unpack here, and
Mhm.
I just really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, Monique, and the ability to kind of break down some of this stuff that let's say lies beneath the surface. It's the whole iceberg analogy where 90% of the mass is beneath the surface, and I think
Beneath the
when
surface.
someone is going and evaluating, scrutinizing what's happened in the last 11, 12 months and whether or not they're happy, it does begin with some self-work and just saying, where am I at right now? Like,
Yeah.
where am I at right
Yeah.
now? And do I have the confidence to move forward in what I believe in? So
Hmm.
thanks for the
And
contribution.
pay attention to the small stuff, right? We want to make goals and make development about big stuff. And when I say small stuff, there's three things I ask individuals. Take an inventory for yourself today. In fact, as you're listening to this podcast, how effective are you with your listening skills? How much time have you spent laughing in the last 24 hours? And what's my last one? How have you created space for yourself? When did you have, and how much of it did you have space just to listen to your own thoughts? Start
Mm.
asking yourself those three questions and see what emerges for you.
No, that's good. That's good. Well, we'll put a pin in it. Thank you, Monique, for coming on. We really appreciate your expertise and sharing with us. Have a happy holiday and be
Hey,
safe.
you as well. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do. You put out great content for the universe compared to so much other stuff that's out there. I encourage people to come check you out. I love what you put out there. Thank you.
I appreciate the endorsement. Take care.